It was Postman Pat's last day on the job after 35 years of carrying the mail through all kinds of weather to the same neighborhood. When he arrived at the first house on his route, he was greeted by the whole family there, who all hugged and congratulated him and sent him on his way with a gift check for $500. At the second house, they presented him with fine Cuban cigars in an 18-karat gold box. The folks at the third house handed him a case of 30-year-old Scotch whiskey. At the fourth house, he was met at the door by a dumb blonde in her lingerie. She took him by the arm and led him up the stairs to the bedroom, where she blew his mind with the most passionate love he had ever experienced. When he had had enough, they went downstairs, where the dumb blonde fixed him a giant breakfast: eggs, tomatoes, ham, sausage, blueberry waffles, and freshly squeezed orange juice. When he was truly satisfied, she poured him a cup of steaming coffee. As she was pouring, he noticed a $5 note sticking out from under the cup's bottom edge. "All this was just too wonderful for words," he said. "But what's the $5 for?" "Well," said the dumb blonde, "last night I told my husband that today would be your last day and that we should do something special for you. I asked him what to give you. He said, 'F him. Give him $5. She smiled prettily. "The breakfast was my idea." A married man was having an affair with his nympho secretary and lost track of time. Exhausted from the wild they fell asleep, awakening around 8 p.m. As the man threw on his clothes, he told his secretary to take his shoes outside and rub them through the grass and dirt. Mystified, she nonetheless complied. He slipped into his shoes and drove home. "Where have you been?" demanded his wife when he entered the house. "Darling, I can't lie to you. I've been having an affair with my secretary and we've been having sex all afternoon. I fell asleep and didn't wake up until 8 o'clock. The wife glanced down at his shoes and said, "You lying bastard. You've been playing golf again. How much money did you lose this time?" A construction worker sits down in his favorite pub at the end of a long, exhausting week. He orders a beer and takes a sip in pure bliss. From the corner of his eye, he notices a cute little girl, but he pays no mind. All he can think of is the shimmering glass in his hands, filled to the brim with golden ale. As the night progresses, the folk get cheerier and louder each passing minute. He is, however, still seated at the bar, enjoying his drinks. The young woman from earlier places herself next to him. As she orders a drink, she engages in conversation with the man, and he responds accordingly. The night moves on, and the man and woman share stories and joy alike. She is very much interested in our working-class hero. "So, big man," she asks, flirtatious, hoping to lure him home with her "any concrete plans tomorrow?" The worker laughs and takes a big gulp of beer. "Honey," he answers with a drunk grin on his face, "I don't work weekends." A man arrives at a hotel after a long train journey, exhausted. He comes into a communal room and sees 3 other guys who are drunk and talking loudly. They are cracking anti-government jokes and laughing at Khrushchev. The man is annoyed that he can't sleep, so he hatches a plan. He walks out into a corridor and asks a staff member to bring him a cup of tea. He then comes back into the room and starts talking to the noisy fellows. "Comrades, you shouldn't joke like that here. Every room is bugged, you know." "Nonsense. Who would listen to us?" "Well, let me show you." The man walks up to a socket and says into it, "Comrade Major, can I have a cup of tea, please?" Sure enough, the staff member soon enters with a cup of tea. "See? Told you." The 3 men are pale and quiet for the entire night, so the tired man finally gets some good sleep. He wakes up the next morning alone. He walks downstairs and asks the receptionist about the fate of the 3 men. At 3 in the morning, the KGB came and arrested them. Comrade Major also said that he liked your little trick, but warned you to be careful next time. 3 sisters were getting married in quick succession, and their mother, a bit anxious about their honeymoon experiences, made them promise to send a postcard with just a few words describing how things were going in their marital lives. A few days after the first daughter's wedding, a postcard arrived from Hawaii. It had just one word: Nescafé. Perplexed, Mom hurried to the kitchen, grabbed the Nescafé jar, and read the label, "Good till the last drop." She turned red but couldn't help feeling pleased for her daughter. A week later, another postcard arrived, this time from Vermont. It read, "Benson Hedges." Curious, Mom went straight to her husband's cigarette pack and read the tagline, "Extra long king size." She blushed even deeper, but nodded in approval. The third daughter left for the Caribbean, but days passed with no postcard. A week went by, then two, then an entire month. Finally, a postcard arrived. The shaky handwriting read just two words: British Airways. Heart-pounding, Mom flipped through her Harper's Bazaar magazine, looking for the airline's latest advertisement. When she found it, she read the slogan, then gasped, her eyes widening before she fainted. The ad read, 3 times a day, 7 days a week, both ways. A gynecologist had become fed up with malpractice insurance and paperwork and was burned out. Hoping to try another career where skillful hands would be beneficial, he decided to become a mechanic. He went to the local technical college, signed up for evening classes, attended diligently, and learned all he could. When the time of the practical exam approached, the gynecologist prepared carefully for weeks and completed the exam with tremendous skill. When the results came back, he was surprised to find that he had obtained a score of 150%. Fearing an error, he called the instructor, saying, "I don't want to appear ungrateful for such an outstanding result, but I wonder if there is an error in the grade." The instructor said, "During the exam, you took the engine apart perfectly, which was worth 50% of the total mark. You put the engine back together again perfectly, which is also worth 50% of the mark." After a pause, the instructor added, "I gave you an extra 50% because you did it all through the exhaust, which I've never seen done in my entire career." A teacher was wrapping up class and started talking about tomorrow's final exam. He said there would be no excuses for not showing up tomorrow, barring a dire medical condition or an immediate family member's death. One smart-ass male student said, "What about extreme sexual exhaustion?" And the whole classroom burst into laughter. After the laughter had subsided, the teacher glared at the student and said, "Not an excuse? You can use your other hand to write." A married couple was in a terrible accident, and the husband's face was severely burned. The doctor told him they couldn't graft any skin from his own body because he was too skinny. His wife lovingly offered to donate some of her own skin. However, the only suitable area was from her buttocks, a rather delicate matter. They both agreed to keep it a secret, and the doctor promised not to say a word. After the surgery, everyone was amazed by the man's transformation. He looked more handsome than ever. Friends and family couldn't stop complimenting his fresh, youthful face. One day, deeply moved, he said to his wife, "Dear, I just want to thank you for everything you did for me. How can I ever repay you?" She smiled and replied, "My love, I get all the thanks I need every time I see your mother kiss you on the cheek." "Father, I have a problem. I have 2 female parrots, but they only know how to say one thing." "What do they say?" asked the priest. "They only say, 'Hi, we're prostitutes. Want to have some fun?'" "That's terrible," said the priest, "but I have a solution. Bring them to my house. I have 2 male parrots I've taught to pray with rosary beads and read the Bible. They'll teach your parrots to worship." The next day, the woman brings her parrots. She puts them in the cage with the priest's parrots, who are praying. Immediately, the female parrots squawk, "Hi, we're prostitutes. Want to have some fun?" One male parrot looks at the other and says, "Put the beads away. Our prayers have been answered." He says out loud, "1 + 6, that son of a bitch is 7. 4 + 4, that son of a bitch is 8. His mom overhears this and is shocked. She says to him, "What are you doing, Johnny?" Johnny replies, I am just doing my maths homework. And is this how your teacher taught you to do it? The mother asks. Yes, Johnny replies. The mother is now angry and immediately phones Johnny's teacher. What on earth are you teaching my son in class? She asks. The teacher replies, right now we are learning mathematical addition. The mother asks, and are you teaching them to say 1 plus 6, that son of a bitch is 7? After the teacher stopped laughing hysterically, she answered, what I taught them to say was 1 plus 6, the sum of which is 7. Friendship between women. A woman doesn't come home one night. The next day, she tells her husband she had slept over at a girlfriend's house. The husband calls his wife's 10 best friends. None of them know anything about it. Friendship between men. A man doesn't come home one night. The next day, he tells his wife he had slept over at a friend's house. The wife calls her husband's 10 best friends. 8 of them confirm he had slept over, and 2 claim that he is still there. And 2 American girls were biking through Scotland when they spotted an old Scotsman napping under a tree in his kilt. One whispered, I've always wondered if it's true Scotsmen don't wear anything under their kilts. The other grinned, well, here's our chance. They lifted his kilt and took a peek. Their curiosity satisfied as a thank you for the old guy. They tied a blue ribbon to his manhood before riding away. Later, the Scotsman woke, stretched, and feeling something strange under his kilt, checked, looked down, puzzled, smiled, and said, well, I don't know where you've been, laddie, but I'm glad to see you won first prize. A blonde walks into the police department looking for a job. The officer wants to ask her a few questions. Officer, what's 2 plus 2? Blonde, 4 factorial, officer. What's the square root of 100? Blonde, 10 factorial, officer. Good. Now, who killed Abraham Lincoln? Blonde, I don't know. Officer, well, you can go home and think about it. Come back tomorrow. The blonde goes home and calls up one of her friends, who asks her if she got the job. The blonde says excitedly, not only did I get the job, I'm already working on a murder case. During one of her daily classes, a teacher trying to teach good manners asked her students the following question. Michael, if you were on a date, having dinner with a nice young lady, how would you tell her that you had to go to the bathroom? Michael replied, just a minute, I have to go pee. The teacher responded, that would be rude and impolite. What about you, Sherman? How would you say it? Sherman said, I'm sorry, but I really need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. That's better, said the teacher, but it's still not very nice to say the word bathroom at the dinner table. Then she turned to little Johnny. And you, little Johnny, can you use your brain for once and show us some good manners? Johnny smiled and said, I would say, darling, may I please be excused for a moment? I have to shake hands with a very dear friend of mine, someone I hope to introduce you to after dinner. In an English class, a teacher asked his students to assume they were in a war and write an essay on their experiences. One student was sitting idle and the teacher walked up to him. Teacher, why are you not writing? Student, I was killed immediately the war started. A farmer is worried that his sex life with his wife is getting a bit dry. They go to see a therapist, who asks them what they think the problem is. The wife says, I just don't have time for it. I'm too busy cooking, cleaning, doing the laundry, and everything else. Sex is starting to lose its appeal. The farmer is disheartened to hear this, but listens to the therapist, who tells him, you need to change things up a bit. You'll just have to do something sexy to attract her. The next morning, the wife is in the house, ironing some clothes, when she hears strange sounds from outside. She runs out of the kitchen and into the front yard and sees her husband completely naked, thrusting his dick in and out of the tractor's exhaust pipe. What on earth are you doing? She shouts. The farmer looks up at her. Well, the therapist said to do something sexy to attract her. Xi Jinping was on his balcony during the early morning, admiring all that Beijing has become. He inhaled a sweet breath of fresh Beijing air and looked east to see the sun smiling down. "Hello, sun," said Xi Jinping. The sun replied, "Hello, glorious leader, the architect of a grand communist utopia. Best wishes, leading your already prosperous nation." Xi Jinping, despite his delight, remembered he had an upcoming meeting to attend. He thanked the sun and left. As the day approached an end, an exhausted Xi Jinping returned to his office and reflected on the day. He strolled back onto his balcony and looked west towards a beautiful sunset. Hoping to catch more praise, he said, "Good evening, sun." The sun candidly responded, "You, I'm in the west now." A drunk was proudly showing off his new apartment to a couple of his friends late one night and led the way to his bedroom where there was a big brass gong. One of the guests asked, "What's with that big brass gong?" "It's not a gong. It's a talking clock," the drunk replied. "A talking clock? Seriously?" asked his astonished friend. "Yep," replied the drunk. "How's it working?" the friend asked, squinting at it. "Watch," the drunk replied. He picked up the mallet, gave it an ear-shattering pound, and stepped back. The three stood looking at one another for a moment. Suddenly, someone on the other side of the wall screamed, "You jackass! It's 3:10 in the morning!" The coach grimaced as he watched his young ice hockey team. At one point during the game, he called one of his 7-year-old players aside and asked, "Do you understand what cooperation is? What a team is?" The little boy nodded affirmatively. "Do you understand that what matters is not whether we win or lose, but how we play together as a team?" The little boy nodded once more. "So," the coach continued, "I'm sure you know that when a penalty is called, you shouldn't argue, curse, attack the referee, or call him a peckerhead. Do you understand all that?" Again, the little boy nodded. He continued, "And when I call you off the ice so that another boy gets a chance to play, it's not good sportsmanship to call your coach a dumb asshole, is it?" The little boy nodded yet again. "Good," said the coach. "Now go over there and explain all that to your mother." Tony Abbott was visiting a Sydney primary school, and the class was in the middle of a discussion related to words and their meanings. The teacher asked Mr. Abbott if he would like to lead the discussion on the word tragedy. So our illustrious leader asked the class for an example of a tragedy. A little boy stood up and offered, "If my best friend who lives on a farm is playing in the field and a tractor runs over him and kills him, that would be a tragedy." "Incorrect," said Abbott. "That would be an accident." A little girl raised her hand. "If a school bus carrying 50 children drove over a cliff, killing everybody inside, that would be a tragedy." "I'm afraid not," explained Abbott. "That's what we would refer to as a great loss." The room went silent. No other children volunteered. Abbott searched the room. "Isn't there someone here who can give me an example of a tragedy?" Finally, at the back of the room, little Johnny raised his hand and said, "If a plane carrying you and Mr. Hockey, Mr. Pine, and Mrs. Bishop was struck by a friendly fire missile and blown to smithereens, that would be a tragedy." "Fantastic!" exclaimed Abbott. "And can you tell me why that would be a tragedy?" "Well," said Johnny, "it has to be a tragedy because it certainly wouldn't be a great loss, and it probably wouldn't be an accident either." A junior high school was recently faced with a unique problem. A number of 12-year-old girls were beginning to use lipstick and would often press their lips against the bathroom mirror. This problem became so bad that the mirrors became almost unusable. Every night, Mr. Boudreau, the maintenance man, would remove the lipstick. And then the next day, the girls would mess up the mirrors again. Finally, the principal decided that something had to be done. She called all the girls to the bathroom and met them there along with Mr. Boudreau. She explained that all these lip prints were causing a major problem for the maintenance man who had to clean the mirrors every night. To demonstrate how difficult it had been to clean up the mirrors, she asked Mr. Boudreau to show the girls how much effort was required to clean up the lipstick. He took out a long-handled squeegee, dipped it in the toilet, and then cleaned the mirrors with it. Since then, there have been no lip prints on the mirror. One morning, a husband decided he would surprise his wife by cooking breakfast. He imagined a flawless omelet, golden toast, and perfectly brewed coffee. His culinary masterpiece. As soon as he stepped into the kitchen, though, his wife followed, unable to resist watching his rare attempt at cooking. "Are you sure you want to add that much milk?" she asked, eyebrows raised as he poured a generous splash into the egg mixture. "It's just a little extra fluffiness," he replied, shrugging it off, though he felt the first twinge of doubt. A minute later, she jumped in again. "Oh, wait! Don't forget the pepper. Not too much, though. And are you sure about that pan? It's a little big, isn't it?" "I think I got this," he assured her, though his confidence was waning fast. But as he cracked eggs into the pan, she leaned in closer. "Oh, be careful. You're scrambling too fast. The eggs will get rubbery. And don't forget the salt or it'll be bland," she insisted, now watching his every move. His patience wearing thin, he took a deep breath and replied with a smile. "Sweetheart, would you like to do it?" She threw her hands up and shook her head. No, you're doing great." "I'll just stand over here." But her hovering continued, with gasps and little reminders that only added to his pressure. Finally, he paused, exasperated. "Honey, how about I show you what it feels like when I'm trying to fix things around the house, and you're watching my every move?" She burst out laughing, realizing the irony. All right. I get it. Go ahead, chef." And as they both laughed, he relaxed, focusing on cooking the perfect breakfast. His way.